We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin and Beis Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 7b. On the previous summit, Rabbi Yonasan said that when a judge is judging a case, he should view it as if there's a sword between his thighs and as if Gehenim is opened up beneath him. And the Gemara now continues and quotes a pasuk from Shir Hashirim Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Hinei mitaso shel Shlomo shishim giborim saviv lo migibore Yisrael kulam achuzei cherev melumde melchame yishcharvo al yirecho mipachad balelos. And Rashi here explains, Mitaso shel Shlomo shichno shel makom. This refers to the area where the Shechina resides. It refers to the fact that the Sanhedrin, the judges, they resided in the Beis HaMikdash. So we're talking here about judges. And it says in the pasuk, Shishim Giborim, the 60 mighty ones. That's Talmidei Chachamim. It means Talmidei Chachamim means the judges that are there. V'shishim lav dafka. We're not supposed to say it's exactly 60. It doesn't mean specifically 60. It just means there is the Sanhedrin. There are the judges over there, and they are melumdei milchamim, milchamta shel Torah. They're fighting the milchamta shel Torah. They're fighting the war of Torah. And then it said at the end of the pasuk, mipachad baleilos, and so the Gemara adds mipachta shel Gehenim. It means from fear of Gehenim, shedom el alayla, which is similar to the night. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rabbi Yoshia v'Yitemer Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rabbi Yoshia darshan, and some say Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak darshan. Ma'idach siv, what does it mean when it's written in the pasuk, Beis David Ko Amar Hashem Dinu la Boker Mishpat v'Hatzilu Gazol mi'aroshek? It talks about judgment, and it talks about Boker. It talks about judgment in the morning. And so the Gemara says, V'chi ba'Boker Donin v'chol hayom ein Donin. Is the judgment, does that take place only in the morning and not throughout the rest of the day? Ella, rather, what does the pasuk mean to say? It means as follows: In Barulach Hadavar Keboker Amru. If it's clear to you, if the matter is clear to you like the morning, then you should say it. Vimla, but if not, Al Tamru, don't say it. If something is not clear, don't issue a ruling in that regard. And the Gemara continues, Rav Chia bar Abba, Rav Yonasan Mehach. Rav Chia bar Abba says that Rav Yonasan says from here, we learn this idea from the following pasuk, Emor lachachma achosiat. It says to say to wisdom that you are my sister, and we darshan that as follows, In barulach hadavar kachoscha she'asura lach. If the matter is clear to you, just like the fact that your sister is forbidden to you, if it's that clear, omreyu, so then you should say it, vimlav, and if not, al tomreyu, then don't say it, don't say anything in such a situation. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Asara sheyo if 10 judges are sitting in judgment, kolar toloi betzavar kula, and the collar, the prison collar, is hanging around all of their necks. They're all responsible for that judgment. And the Gemara says, Pshit, it's obvious, of course they're all responsible. And the Gemara says, Lo no tzrich, it's necessary, Talmud hayoshev lifnei rabu. It means even if there's a student who's not formally part of the court, he's just sitting in front of his Rebbe, but if he sees something, if he understands there's some injustice over here and he needs to speak out, again, he bears responsibility as well. And the Gemara continues, Rav Huna ki ava'asi dino lekamei. Rav Huna, when a judgment would come before him, when a case would come before him, michnifu maisi asar rabbanon mibei Rav, he would gather together 10 of the scholars from the study hall to judge with him together. Amar, and he said, Kiechi delimti yashiva mikshura. That way the responsibility will reach us like a splinter from a beam. Since we have many judges, we will all assume only a small part of the responsibility. And the Gemara continues along the same lines, Rav Ashi ki ava'asi terifta lekamei. Rav Ashi, when an animal that there was a question whether it was a treifa came before him, and they needed a ruling, michnafu maisi lulakulu tavchi damasa mechasi, he gathered together all of the butchers of masa mechasi, all of the experts in this subject. Amar, and he said again the same idea, Kiechi delimti and shiva mikshura. That way it will only reach us a splinter from the beam. And the Gemara continues, Kiyasar Rav Dimi Yamar, when Rav Dimi came, he said, Darash Rav Nachman bar Kohen, that Rav Nachman bar Kohen darshaned as follows, Ma'idach siv, what does it mean when it is written in the pasuk, Melach b'mishpat yamid oretz? It talks about the fact that a king, there is justice, v'ish cherumos yarsena, but the man of cherumos, which we'll see in a moment how he darshans it, he causes the land, he causes it to be destroyed. And the Gemara darshans the pasuk as follows, Im dayan doma l'melech, if a judge is similar to a king, she'eno tzarech l'chlum, that he doesn't need anything, he doesn't require anything from anyone, so yamid oretz, that establishes the land, that will establish justice. However, v'im doma l'kohen, but if he's similar to a kohen, shemechazer bebeis hagronos, that he goes around asking for food at the various threshing floors, at the granaries, then yaharsena, then he causes there to be destruction, if such a person is a judge. And the Gemara continues, Devei Nasiya Ukma Dayana Deloha Vegomer, the house of the Nasi, they put into place, they established a judge, and he wasn't learned, he wasn't fit to be a judge, and they placed this person in such a position. Amar Leili Yehuda bar Nachmeni Miturgamani D'Reish Lakish, so this judge, who didn't know how to issue a ruling, he said to Yehuda bar Nachmeni, who happened to have been the disseminator for Reish Lakish. In those days when Reish Lakish, let's say, would give a shir, he would say the shir, and there would be the Miturgamani, Yehuda bar Nachmeni would be standing over there to listen to what he said, and then he would proclaim it out loud loud for the people that were gathered. And so he said to him, Kum alei ba'amora, you should be my disseminator. Come over here and you'll say out loud that which I tell you. So come gachin aleh. So Yehuda bar Nachmani, he got up and he bent over him in order to hear what he was saying. V'lo amar lei v'lo midi, and this judge who didn't know anything didn't say anything. So pasach v'yamar. So when Yehuda bar Nachmani saw how ignorant he was, he said the following. He quoted the pasuk. The pasuk says, Hoyomer lo eitz hakitza uri le'even dumam. They say to the wood, you should wake up. They say to the stone, and the stone is silent. Hu yoreh hinei utafus azav v'chesef v'chol ruach ein bekirbo. The idea is that there is no spirit in these things. There's no spirit in the stone. There's no spirit in the wood and the gold and the silver. Of course they cannot speak. So too this judge, he doesn't know anything. So of course he's not able to issue a ruling. V'yasar HaKadosh Baruch Hu liparim ima'amidin. And in the future HaKadosh Baruch Hu will punish those who established, those who put this person in such a position. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, V'Hashem beichal kadsho hasmi ponav kol ha'aretz, that the earth is silent in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara continues, Reish Lakish says, Kol hamaymed dayan she'eino hagan, anybody who appoints a judge who is not proper, who is not able to judge, ki'ilu noteya asherah b'Yisrael, it's like planting an asherah tree in Klal Yisrael, an asherah tree meaning a tree of avodah zarah. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Shoftim v'shotrim titen l'cha, talks about placing judges, v'samachlei, and nearby in the pasuk it says, Lo sita l'cha asherah koletz, it talks about the planting of an asherah tree which is forbidden, and so you see a judge that's eino hagan is like a noteya asherah b'Yisrael. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi says, if it's in a place where there are Torah scholars, where there are Talmidei Chachamim, then it's Kilun Ato Eitzel Mizbeach. It's like you planted the Asherah tree right by the Mizbeach. Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk, Eitzel Mizbach Hashem Elokech, it says by the Mizbeach of Hashem. And the Gemara continues, Ksiv, it's written in the Pasuk, Lo Sasun Iti Elohei Chesed Ve'Elohei Zav. It says you shouldn't make idols that are silver and gold. And so the Gemara says, Elohei Chesed Ve'Elohei Zav, Hu Delo Avdi, Had De'etz Shari. What does the Pasuk mean? You shouldn't make idols of silver and gold, but you can make idols of wood. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Ashi says, Eloah Haba B'Shvil Kesef, Eloah Haba B'Shvil Zav. What it refers to are judges who can also be referred to with the term Elohei, and it's referring to judges who are appointed because of silver, because of gold. Essentially, there's bribery involved, and judges are appointed who are not fit. And the Gemara continues, Rav ki avasi leveidina, Rav, when he would go to the court to be a judge, Amar Hachi, he would say as follows, Berus nafshe liktala nafik, it's of his own will that he goes to be killed, because of the fact, again, that it's such a great responsibility to be a judge. Vitzavi beise leisu avid v'reikon leveise ayil, and he doesn't take care of the needs of his household, he's going to come home empty-handed, because the judges will not get a salary. Well, and it would be good if the way he came is the way he leaves, meaning if I come, just like I come in with no sin, so too I should leave from the judgment without sin. And the Gemara continues about the humility of Rav. When he saw a crowd that was following him, Amar, he said, the person, if he's raised up to the heavens, but still, he's going to be destroyed like dung in the end. And the Gemara continues, Marzutra Chasida, Marzutra Chasida, when they would carry him on the Shabbos of the Regel, when he went to Darshan publicly, Amar Hachi, he said as follows, Kiloli Olam Chosen Vimnezer Ledor Vodor. One's power is not forever, and the crown does not endure for all generations. And the Gemara continues, Darash Bar Kapara Darshan, the Menoha Milsa Damra Rabbanan. From where do the Rabbanan know the following idea of having Masunin Bedin, that a person should be deliberate in judgment, should not rush to judgment, as it's written in the Pasuk, Lo Sala B'Malos. It says that when you go up the Mizbeach, you shouldn't go up steps, you shouldn't go up in a hurried fashion. B'Samachlein, it says close to that Pasuk, V'Ela HaMishpatim, and these are the laws. So the idea is that within judgment, a person should not hurry, a person should not rush in judgment. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Elazar says, Minayin, L'dayin Shalo Yifsal Rashi Am Kodesh. How do we know a judge shouldn't step over the heads of those of the holy nation? People used to sit on the ground, and the judge shouldn't appear to be stepping over them. Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk, Lo Sala B'Malos, again the same Pasuk, don't go up, don't descend the Mizbeach with steps. V'Samach Le Ve'ela HaMishpatim, and it says nearby, again, Ve'ela HaMishpatim, these are the laws, and so we learn that this applies to a judge. And the Gemara continues, Asher Tosim, when it says in the Pasuk, Ve'ela HaMishpatim, it says these are the laws, Asher Tosim, that you should place before them. Asher Talamde Mi Boile, it should say that you should teach them. Why does it say Asher Tosim? And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah v'Yiteimer Rabbi Chiya bar Abba. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, and some say Rabbi Chiya bar Abba says, Elu Klei Hadayon, and this is a reference to the tools of the judges, as we'll see in a moment. Rav Huna ki avinafik l'dina. Rav Huna, when he would go to court, Amar Hachi said as follows, Afiku li monech and vasi, bring out the tools from my shop, the tools of the judges. And what are the tools of a judge, makil uritzua, it is the rod and the strap that's used for lashes, the shofar and a shofar that's used for excommunications, the sandal and a sandal which is used for chalitza. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, "Va'atzaves shoftechem bo'itzahi," that I instructed your judges at that time. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, "Keneged makil u'ritzua tehei zares." What that was referring to is, in terms of the rod and the strap, a person should be vigilant in terms of how he employs those. And the pasuk says, "Shamoa ben achechem u'shvatetem," listen among your brothers and judge. What do we learn from that pasuk? Amar Rabbi Chanina says, "Azhar lebezdin shelo yishma divrei baldin kodem sheyavo baldin chaveru." That's a warning to the court not to hear the words of one litigant before the other litigant comes. The Azhar lebaldin, it's also a warning to the litigants, shelo yatim devar of ladayan, that the litigant shouldn't state his case to the judge, kodem sheyavo baldin chaveru, but before the other litigant arrives. How do we see that it's referring to the litigant as well? Because kari beinami shamoa ben achechem, the way you can read it is shamoa ben achechem, which is a reference to the achechem, to the brothers, to the litigants, not necessarily a reference only to the judge. And Rashi explains, Shamoa ben achechem, again the pasuk, it says Shamoa with a vav, kishiyu shneim yachad, when both the litigants are together, Shamoa divreihem velo sishmu divrei zeh below zeh, then you should listen to their words, not listen to one without the other. Shemesader divrei sheker ke divrei emes, lefi shein machishan, because then already, if the other litigant's not there, the person won't mind lying, there's no one who's going to contradict him. Umechevon shalev hadayin notelo lezechus, and then already once the judge hears it, and he's thinking already this person, the judgment leans in favor of that person, shuvein libo mahafech b'schus it's difficult to then turn and decide that the second person is the one who should win. And then we also interpret the pasuk without the vav, shema dvarecha bein achechem kishetiu shnechem yachad, mashma means to say that the brothers, the litigants themselves, they have to make sure that their words are heard only when the other litigant is present. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Rav Kahana Amar Mehacher, Rav Kahana says from here, from the following pasuk, we learn that it applies to the litigants as well as to the judge. It says in the pasuk, Milo Sisa, that talks about bearing a false report, that's referring to the judge, but we understand Lo Sasi, that also can refer to the litigants causing this to happen. They're not allowed to cause this as well. And Rashi explains Lo Sisa, Lo Sakabel, Shema Shav, Azar Ladayan. When it says Lo Sisa, that's that the judge should not receive the false reports. Vikari Beinami Lo Sasi, Azar Lebaldin, but you can read it also Lo Sasi, and that would be a warning for the litigant. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Ushvatetem tzedek, it says you have to judge with tzedek, with justice. Amar Reish Lakish says, Tzadek esadin v'achar kach chotcheu, means to say first, you have to be careful to be precise in figuring out what the actual ruling should be, and then you should carry out the ruling. That's achar kach chotcheu. Beinishu ve'inachiv, it says in the pasuk, between a man and his brother. And the Gemara explains what that means. Amar Rav Yehuda says, Afilu bein bayis lali, it means even if you're trying to divide a lower floor and an upper floor, you have to be careful. Let's say it's an inheritance, you have to make sure to be careful to divide everything evenly. Uvein geiro, and then it says also between his stranger. Amar Rav Yehuda afilu bein taner lekirayim. That part of the pasuk teaches even to make a distinction between a taner and a kirayim, an oven and a stove. Again, you have to make sure to divide up the inheritance properly, to divide it appropriately. And the Gemara continues, Lo sakiru panim ba'mishpat. The pasuk says that you're not allowed to treat the various litigants unequally. You have to be fair among the two litigants. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda says, what does the pasuk mean? It means Lo sakireo, means you shouldn't act as if this person is your friend. Let's say one of the litigants you know better than the other. You have to treat them equally. Rabbi Elazar Omer Lo sinakreo. Rabbi Elazar, he darshans the pasuk to mean Lo sinakreo. If he's your enemy, you can't treat him like your enemy. Rashi here explains Lo sakireo imhu ahavcha, meaning if he's your friend, so you shouldn't recognize him as your friend in the judgment. And Lo sinakreo, don't treat him like a stranger. Imhu sonacha Lo sasa lo kenachre l'chayvo. If he's your enemy, don't treat him like a stranger, that then he's going to be liable. And the Gemara continues, a person who used to occasionally host Rav, he came before Rav for a court case. Amar lo, and this person, he said to Rav, Lav ushbezichnei, aren't I someone who hosted you? Amar lo, Rav said to him, yes, you did host me. Amar le, so he said to him, the person said to Rav, Dino isli, I have a court case. Amar le, so Rav said back to him, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ches Amud Aleph.